Okay, so our last presentation today is from Josh Canner of Nowpredictive. Welcome along, Josh, to the session. Josh is going to take a focus here about predictive analytics. So we've had various presentations today which have alluded to the fact of being ahead of the curve. So Josh he's founder and CEO of Nowpredictive, and he's had over 16 years experience in the construction technology world. He was also, before that, a co-founder of Vela Systems, a pioneer used in web and tablet workflow for construction and capital projects. That company was acquired by Autodesk, which we'll all have heard of, in 2012. He's a graduate from Brown University. He's earned an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management, so we're in great company here today. He says he enjoys hiking, skiing, travel, and being a dad to his two boys. Best of luck with that then. Yeah, Josh, I'll hand over to you then.
Thanks a lot, Doug, and thanks for the opportunity to present today. In addition to having two boys, I've got, a sister and her family that live in London. So I have to say, Doug, I was looking forward to the opportunity to coming over and seeing them for the conference. But it's great to be doing this remotely and have the opportunity to present to everybody. So we're Nowpredictive. We're a software company that's founded by a bunch of folks like me who have a depth of construction and technology experience. In our management team, we've got our head of customer success, for example, has implemented over 200 safety systems in the construction and the industrial world. Our head of strategy, who he heads up our predictive area, has been in construction for over 25 years, implementing systems to translate data into action. We're focused deeply on safety and how we can take all the data that now, as our industry has become increasingly digitized, both the construction and commercial construction, heavy and civil and others, how do we use all that data to get better insights and get out ahead of lagging indicators to actually get predictive? So this first slide here, and Doug, just confirming you can see my slides.
Yep, we're loud and clear.
Excellent, awesome. So it's great to follow Brian and Esty and some of the other presentations today, because I think there's one theme that's coming out is there's more and more data coming from the job site, from the industrial site. This is my take on the technology that has grown through the construction industry, the industrial world, since the 80s. So you just mentioned, Doug, you don't remember how to book a hotel. I always like to do a test and see if folks if they remember the Nextel or they remember the tablet PC in the mid 2005. So it's pretty interesting when you look at it and you see, you see that mobile devices like the iPad and the iPhone really have only been around for now over 10 years, but in the scheme of things, it's still pretty new. But there's a ton more and more data being collected all the time. But as a study from FMI shows, there's still, if you look in the middle here, 96% of the data that's collected and captured in construction goes unused. And a lot of the data is unstructured. In other words, it's hard to analyze. So we here at Nowpredictive, as construction professionals, as software professionals, we're deeply interested in solving the challenges of safety. We look at that data and we say, well, how can we use that to help bend the curve? So ST showed the productivity curve. This is the total recordable incident rate curve. It's showing, and this is a chart actually from the chief safety officer of one of our customers, Shawmut Design and Construction, that's using us across 110 projects at any one time. He looks at this chart and he says, we've got to do something new. We've got to figure out how we can start bending this curve further down, because the TRIR across the US, and unfortunately the fatality rate also in the US and around the world is not changed very much in the last 20 years. So if you look at that with that backdrop, all the data being gathered now, and the desire to really focus on safety as a key driver of value on site, we turn to artificial intelligence and predictive analytics. And because when you look around to other industries, and in my career, what we've been trying to do here is bring innovations from other industries into the construction industry, right? So Now, an innovation that's happening all around us, whether it's that map from Waze that tells you which way you should go to avoid the traffic that's predicted to happen. Netflix making entertainment recommendations. These may seem kind of superficial, but the technology underneath it is quite deep. It's predicting based on data what will happen so that we can save time and reduce risk by by knowing what to do. Now, of course, you're not going to know that Jim Fredson is going to lacerate his hand in this part of the job on Tuesday. But what we can get to, as I'll show you in a second, is the ability to identify which jobs are at highest risk and why, so that you can really focus your attention. So just like in the commercial world, Netflix and Waze and others, in the industrial world, the construction world, we see a journey going on all around us. And I'd encourage you, as you're watching this, to think about where is your company in this process. If you think about what is your maturity, what's the maturity at which you're actually using the data that you're gathering today? Are you just collecting it? And is it in paper or digital form? Is it in a digital filing cabinet, which is just as locked up, I would argue, as a paper filing cabinet? Are you starting to mine that data to get insights about what's going on? Perhaps potentially use it for opportunities for training, for seeing for identifying particular behaviors. Descriptive analytics are using it to basically understand trends and where things are going by working backwards from a trend standpoint. Again, that's still backwards looking. Or are you able to use it to predict where things will go based on the data? And that's what I'm going to show you today. So we use a term, it's been around the industry for a while, but we're using it to talk about and describe what we're doing because it fits so well. Predictive-based safety, which is an overall approach. It's a holistic approach to thinking about everything from using the data you have to potentially augmenting it with new data and translating that into insights, which if they just sit there as insights, do nothing. They need to translate into action and then ultimately loss reduction. And that loss reduction translates into benefits on not just on the health and safety side, which is critical, but also on the insurance and profitability side. This is really what predictive gives you. As a safety professional, as an operations professional, when you start every week, let's say you've got 75 jobs that you have currently going on. Just take that as an example. Where do you focus your attention? Where do you pay attention to? Well, with analytics that's predicting where your highest risk is, you can go from 75 to 5 and focus on the riskiest projects and know why you're focusing on them. And that act in and of itself, as I'll show you an example from one of our customers, Obayashi out of Japan, can save a tremendous amount of time and reduce risk because you're applying your resources to where the risk is highest. So let me show you now how it works. So as I mentioned, we're a software company. We're based in the US. My nieces would also, they would want me to apologize for my horrible accent. They're trying to teach me how to speak like a Londoner, but clearly it's not working. But we have, three, think of it as 3 modules here: predictive analytics, which I'll talk about first. And then we have safety observations, which is a data capture platform for capturing information from the field, from field personnel, and then safety monitoring, which is our AI-based analytics on top of all the imagery that's being gathered, like the kind that Brian showed and Esty showed, and that I'm sure you're gathering on your sites today. All this is built on top of our AI engine, which we've nicknamed Vinny. So Amazon has Alexa, IBM has Watson. We've got Vinny. It's named after a field superintendent from New Jersey here. And then a platform for managing all your photos and videos. And then, as you'll see in a second, really key, tying into your existing systems, pulling data to be able to create these models. So let's get into predictive. So any kind of predictive approach relies on data underneath it. I said there's a lot of data being gathered. Here's the kinds of data that we pull into a predictive system. So we pull in your project imagery, which can be 2D or 3D or 360 rather, or site cameras, safety observation data from our system or yours, your incident data, project data, your start and end dates, locations. And then we can also pull data like manpower logs, weather data, employee time card data, schedule data, we have integrations built with a number of existing construction management platforms, from Autodesk to Procore to Oracle, as well as file management systems like SharePoint and Box and Ignite, and increasingly field data capture solutions like StructuredSite and others. So our goal here, again, going back to where all the data are today, is we want to use the data you got, because you're gathering a lot of it already, and we'll tailor the model and tailor the metrics to be able to use that data. The goal here, and this is just a different way of thinking about that, where to focus your attention graphic. The goal here is to be able to identify which 20% of your jobs have 80% of your incidents every Monday morning. So Monday morning, you get a list that says, here are the jobs to focus on, and here's why. And that list is delivered to you through the power of predictive analytics on top of your data. The data, as I just mentioned, comes from a variety of sources, and the analytics are based on our thousands of years of data around incidents and observations across our customer base. Plus, it's then tuned for your specific data. So you may have specific ways you run your observation program, or the ways you categorize incidents. Maybe you have a specific severity scale you use. Maybe you're capturing near misses in a certain way. We tailor the model to your data. The goal here is not just to create action in a given week, but it's to start what our head of deployment calls a virtuous circle. Again, he's been a part of over 200 system deployments across the industry over the last 25 years in the area of safety. And his goal is to move to this three-part process where the data collection results in predictions, which then translate into action that is then seen and reinforces the value of the data for the field teams and management. So as you see data, as you see it be useful, it then helps drive the virtuous cycle of reducing risk and also showing that data is useful. More importantly, the process of the data drives engagement. Whether it's looking at the predictions, whether it's gathering data through your observation program, it drives engagement, it drives conversations, it heightens awareness around specific areas, and ultimately that's what leads to risk reduction. Again, if the data just sits in a dashboard, it doesn't translate into action, it's not worth anything. It's literally the tree falling in the forest that no one is there to see. So how do we translate that data into action? Well, I'll just take you through some quick screenshots here. So I'll just stay here in the slides, but show you how the product works. So we take your data, we build out models that are tailored to the data, and every week we give you this list. So this is a list of your projects ranked from riskiest, rank number 1, through to, in this particular example, there's 50 different projects through 50. What we do is for each project, we show what's the change been week over week. Has it stayed relatively flat? Has it decreased in risk? Has it increased in risk? What we find is that there's a watch list of, let's say, it's typically the top 10 to 20% of projects, whereas jobs jump into that list. So this one, for example, jumped 17 spots. That then tells you that you should focus on the job. Some jobs may stay the same. Every job, as I click on this one, has specific reasons coming from your data that it has jumped in the priority list. So for this particular project, it's a whole bunch of different data, everything from your observation program, the time to close observations. We have analyzed schedule data. We see concurrent phases of work overlapping. We analyze the photo data coming from your progress photos and see housekeeping issues through our photo AI. And then also schedule items like duration of planned phases. All of these have been shown to drive increased risk of incidents on your jobs. So here I zoomed in just to make it a little bit easier to see. There's a whole bunch of other reasons as well. Pulling payroll data, we see things like average hours per staff employee. Ratios like that, as I'll get to in a second, wind up being highly predictive. Staff oversight to craft worker man hours, another highly predictive variable that we're seeing across customers. Your observation rate, which I mentioned actually in the slide before. Weather, all of these factors can go into play. There's over 250 different features that we look at as we are helping to create ultimately what's just a simple list. It's a list of projects ranked by risk. There's also a view. So that list is used by safety management, used by operations management to understand where the risk may be. also have views of the data for the projects themselves, where they can go in and actually see how they're doing over time. Are they improving? Are they acting on? Are they closing the loop in that cycle and actually acting on the kinds of recommendations that are being seen and recommended by the engine? Or are they not? So there's a feedback loop as well to the project team, so that they can actually see how their risk is changing over time. There's also a very detailed view, and in the time we have, I won't go into it, but be happy to follow up with additional detail. There's a very, very detailed views for each project, for the project team, as well as for safety leadership and safety management, to be able to track some of these key metrics relative to benchmarks. So for example, your craft observation rate here, there should be for this particular client, the key threshold for them is about 100 hours of craft work per observation. If in this case, this particular week, there's 200 hours of craft work going on per observation going on, that's showing in the red. That's showing that there's actually this means this project is on the path to having a very risky week. Same goes for staff hours on site. There's some really interesting data around how much overtime starts driving risk. I think a lot of these factors you may have a feel for. We actually get beyond the feel into the actual of what is the threshold, what is the amount of overtime. Is there a key amount, for example, that then triggers heightened risk on a given project? Again, I won't go through each of these, but hopefully those are some good examples of how what we're doing is we're combining the data you have, and we're looking at it through the lens of what is predictive, and pushing it back so that you can then manage every week the jobs and focus your attention on the jobs that are at highest risk. In addition to predictive insights, there's also just straight up metrics and benchmarks. So we've identified, and we're actually presenting at a construction conference next week, 4 of these new metrics benchmarks, which we've seen across our customer base. I've already talked about a couple of them: the average craft observation rate, the average staff observation rate. I'm happy to go into more detail on this as we have time. We've come up with a modified incident rate, as opposed to just focusing on recordable incidents. We actually see there's a lot of predictive power in understanding the full spectrum of incidents, not just recordables, as we would call them in the US, but everything all the way down the stack from there to near misses and below, opportunities for improvement. Average severity index as well. There's a lot of attention in the industry right now, rightfully so, on SIF, serious injuries and fatalities. We highlight those, and we can build models that specifically focus on SIF risk. There's value also in understanding what is the average incident severity that's being logged on your sites. As health and safety professionals, I think we all know that there can sometimes be a skew towards on certain jobs only logging serious incidents. We've actually, and this will make sense, I think, to everybody intuitively, we've found that the broader the range of severities that are logged, the safer the job. Is ultimately what that represents is a culture of engagement on site. So culture is a term that we all talk about in health and safety, but this is a way of actually starting to measure it across these 4 metrics and these benchmarks that we've now built across our customer base. So what we can do, if you're interested in seeing where your data fits, is we actually have a pilot program where we connect up your data, we do a data assessment, and then we benchmark you, and we look to even build a model on your data and give you some preliminary results. So that's predictive analytics. That's, if you remember the product chart, that was the tip of the pyramid. That's built on top of 2 other modules here, which I'll go into now. So safety monitoring is another module that we built, and it's where we started as a company, actually, about 5 years ago. Where what we're doing, it's actually a very similar concept here to what Brian was just describing in terms of visualization, where he's pulling in data from a variety of different sources, visual data. We are as well. Our goal, though, is not a digital twin. Our goal is to mine that data for safety insights. So we have built over 100 different computer vision models that look at all your imagery and create cross-project metrics and trends which I'll show you in a second, dashboards, additional dashboards around those specific indicators of risk, as well as reports that give you identified opportunities for engagement in your photos. So one of them is trends and metrics, and the other one is opportunities for engagement in PDF reports. So what kinds of things do we tag? As I mentioned, there's over 100 different things, but it's everything from ergonomics to potential fall arrest issues, guardrail issues, impalement hazards, a whole variety of things. As well as everything from housekeeping to standing water to workers in close proximity to mobile equipment, which we call MEPI, mobile equipment personnel interface, which is kind of an acronym that we've seen used in the industry. So your jobs are being reviewed, the photos stream coming from your jobs, whether it's 2D or 360, coming through our platform. We're creating automatic reports, PDF reports for opportunities for engagement. We're also visualizing the data in the web. So let's say your PPE trend, or in these days of COVID, we're also looking at things like mask wearing and social distancing. You can actually trend them per job and then see how they're trending over time, and be able to identify opportunities for engagement at the project level. We also have a whole set of data that we visualize through Power BI. So if you have a Power BI environment, you can use our dashboards in your environment. You can use ours, where we get to a very detailed both snapshots as well as trending. So here, work at height is one example. We're also tracking construction activities, everything from MEP work all the way through to finished detail, so that you know the context for what's the work that's going on site and can put it in the proper risk context. Obayashi is one of our customers. We have customers actually all over the world, and they just recently, and I have a little bit of recency bias here because we just did the webinar together about a week ago. They're estimating they are saving 60 man hours a month in the safety team by using the visual data as well as our analytics to be able to understand which jobs to focus on. It's also generating through these automatic reports opportunities for engagement based off of the photo stream that's coming directly from the jobs today. So that was predictive analytics, which can analyze all your data. Safety monitoring, which is one of our core capabilities that translates all of your photo data into specific metrics. And then last but not least, we have a safety observations module, which we've built with some of our customers to harness the power of what's happening in the field, to also feed the risk metrics models, these new metrics, as well as predictive. At the core of our safety observations module is what one of our customers calls conversation-based safety. This is in the construction world, it's a bit of a reaction to the realization that checklist-driven safety, very detailed 40, 50 item checklists around specific scopes of work or hazard categories, that in construction, those have failed for the most part to drive ultimately what the goal is, which is more engagement, more conversations, and better data and documentation of that engagement. So what the safety observations application is, it's a really simple configurable way to get everybody on site engaged in safety. It works on both a mobile app, both iOS as well as Android, and it supports gathering really quick, really targeted severity and frequency for specific risk observations, as well as logging of positive observations to drive engagement and then automate trends and analysis. Again, it all ties back to what's actually happening in the field and how much engagement is going on. So bringing this to a close in terms of the outcomes, we work with large contractors like Suffolk Construction. Their predictive model showed them incident costs annually that they could address of between 1.4 and 3.6 million. One large contractor in New England saw 73% reduction in lost time hours year over year. Lithgow, which is a large concrete trade, reduced their incident rates by over 20%. And then Shawmut had the lowest incident rate in the history of the firm, deploying our analytics suite across all of their projects across the country. In addition to the benefits the firm see, there's also, we're seeing insurance benefits. So we have partnered with the Hartford, which is a large insurance carrier here in the US. We also have a partnership with AXA XL, the Hartford is actually paying for initial implementations of new metrics. And they strongly believe that the better run, the more analytic oriented the business is, the less losses and rewards there should be through that. And we see our customers using our data, not just the reduction in incidents, but the visibility into risk to negotiate better insurance terms and rates from their carriers. So this is a really exciting time to have insurance providers paying for our solution and then also rewarding our customers for using it. So with that, I will wrap things up here at Newmetrics. We are a software company focused on construction industry and the industrial world as a whole. We have in our team hundreds of years of experience deploying construction technology and safety solutions. We see that there's more and more data out there every day. The question is, how can you translate that data into, if you'll pardon me using the expression, how can you translate that data into new metrics that help you go from reacting to risk to predicting to risk in a way that's tailored to your firm, to the data you have, and to the projects that you're running. So I'll pause for questions, but if folks are interested in getting started, we have a structured pilot program, which we call a predictive evaluation, which takes, it's typically a 4 to 6 week program where we will take your data, we'll do what we call a data health check on it, and we will benchmark you coming out of it for your fit to both the benchmarks we see as highly predictive of risk, as well as we'll generate a model on top of your data to show you the results of predictive on your own outcomes, on your own incidents of any severity. If you're interested in learning about that, you can get a guide on that. The guide to data-driven safety is just on our website, newmetrics.com. And my email is here, jcanner@newmetrics.com. Or you can, if you want to go a little bit more impersonal, you don't have to email directly. You can email info@newmetrics.com. So with that, let me also, I'll pause the sharing here, and I'll come on screen. And you can see, Doug, I was excited to come to London, and then when the London trip fell through, I went on the road anyway. So I'm out on the west coast of the USA here in my hotel room.
All right. Okay. Well, that's nice. Here we are in Scotland, where it's already got dark this evening. It's 4 o'clock.
Wow.
Good. Thanks for that, Josh. It was very well presented. Very clear. Yeah. Just to pick up one thing you said, it was you said about measuring culture. I didn't. Maybe just want to just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. Sure. I'm happy to. So the concept of safety culture is one that's is often talked about as a critical metric, right, of project safety success. Well, you can relate measurable. What we would argue is that it's hard to measure that. What does it mean? You know it when you see it, right? But what we've seen by doing all of the different predictive assessments we've done, that you can actually measure behaviors and measure engagement, and use that as a way of understanding what the culture is. I'll give you a specific example. Looking at observation rates only tells part of the story. If you see, for example, that everybody's hitting their observation targets at the end of the week or at the end of the month, that's an example of where people are really, where the team is pushing to a number, not pushing to actually engage in the work as it's going on. And that kind of trend actually will reveal itself as you look at projects and you look at project data and you relate it to outcomes. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I see what you're getting at there then. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll open the floor again, the virtual floor, if anyone wants to pick up anything with Josh there. Are we all through? Okay.
I realize I'm the last guy of the day.
Well, everyone's coming in from all time zones. You said in the West Coast. We've got people in the Middle East, so it's the middle of the night now in some places. I noticed an Australian delegate here not too long ago, so heavens knows what time that is. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Josh. I really appreciate your time. That's great. well, hopefully you'll get to London soon.
Looking forward to it.
Good. Okay. Okay, so yeah, quite a day. I think overall, I'm been quite amazed by everything that we've sat through today. I can't believe it's gone 4 o'clock here all day. It's been quite a day. I honestly can't remember an HSE conference in which, well, two things actually. One in which every session was so professionally presented and really absorbing content. It's great to have a full house on that. And I definitely don't remember an HSE conference which began with a discussion of scrotums. So what have we all learned today then? I suppose we started out with Phil, who certainly I learned. He gave me a quick test which suggests I probably have type 2 diabetes, so I should get that checked out. But yeah, serious points in terms of Phil's opening presentation as well around how we how we stand up to things and be counted and not just accept what happens and just purely rely on the data. James gave us a model to look at a more effective and a safer way of working into the future based upon how things have changed over the past 18 months. And I really liked his observations there that he distilled out as to better and more safer ways of working that we can all deploy. Nick gave us hope that a lot of good can come from all that dormant massive data store that exists. And if you guys are able to join in and help on that, then clearly that's going to be brilliant. Neil, our fighter pilot, he strengthened the message about this need to bring human factors in right the way through, but in particular at the beginning of activities, and in particular the design of your systems or your sites or your processes, and what's going to be the way in which humans are going to interact and respond to that. Mark and Nathan started off our afternoon of technology, in which artificial intelligence seems to have featured in almost everything that is going on now, and has really started to show us how that we can deliver real value if using artificial intelligence to go and mine HSE data. Alan has told us to stop counting and get analyzing. And SD showed us one of the ways in which we could do that analyzing using some really innovative technology, which is incredible. And also through that visualization, Brian showing us the benefit of having digital twins of your facilities and your sites. I love that phrase, digital twin, but that's exactly what it is, and so much that can be done with that, as he demonstrated. And Josh there confirming that although people have talked about predictive analytics for so long, we've had several presentations today in which, including Josh's, which is doing exactly that. So we're well on the road with that, I think, now as an industry. So thanks to all those presenters today for their time and their efforts to put all that together and deliver it so well and so engagingly. And also a quick thank you to our behind the scenes team here who have made this happen. That's Hannah and Ross from SDC and CISO here who have made this run so smoothly today, and Elena at Lloyd's Register as well for helping pull everyone together. So yeah, it's the biggest thank you of all goes to all of you for entrusting your valuable time with us all for the day, or at least throughout the day. It's been brilliant that we've been able to do this. And the next time that we will do it, then we should hopefully have this in a physical location. But using James's view on the world, then why not have it in a blended way as well? So stay safe, stay healthy, look after your environment, and remember your clangers. Don't forget about them now. So thank you all for joining us, and on behalf of everyone at Lloyd's Register and SDC and CISO, we wish you a good night or a good morning or a good afternoon, whichever part of the world that you're in. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doug.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doug.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done, Doug. Great job.
On.